Welcome back. You're watching Today. And Pick n Pay Clothing has reopened a store in Sandton with an upmarket store of designer collections. A fashion show during the event featured the latest Futurewear collection by ambitious young designers, including Thando Ntuli. So in our Entrepreneurship My Journey, she is our guest this afternoon and joins us in studio. She's the creative director and founder of women's wear brand Minkus. Hello, and thank you for joining us in studio. I want to start with the name of the clothing brand that you have created. Very cute, and I assume there's an endearing story behind it.
There is. So Minkus is the name I was called by at home. It's the name I associate with kind of love or someone who kind of cares about me. You know, it's like pumpkin or putununu or nana in a sense. And my brand kind of represents the sense of home, feeling comfortable. Who are you at home? Your best self, your worst self, your most comfortable in the way of taking on the world. So it's something that I wanted to connect with the two.
Yeah.
And came with Minkus.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit about Minkus and the vision, apart from connecting with the world and creating comfort, the overall vision that you had when you sat down and you sketched a design of something that you would want a member of the public to wear one day.
I think for me, the connection came from who I was, so my history and my storytelling. I think for me, my mom, my grandmother, my great-grandmother kind of just built me, and with that, I was always the one who was stealing stuff out of their closets. I was always the one who kind of made their pieces my own, in a sense, despite the age gap. So I wanted to bring clothing to the world that kind of closed the age gap between older and younger, and rather how you wore and how you took on the world with that.
Yeah, and tell us a little bit about the fabrics. I mean, that you've decided to use are very bold patterns. We're going to get into some of the collaborations that you've had as well, but the choice of fabric, the patterns that you go for, how does this exert the confidence that a woman would want to have when she's wearing something? Because that's what it's about at the end of the day, walking out and feeling good about yourself.
So all of the prints are actually created by me as well as my brothers. We are a creative, active family. So in terms of going out and kind of taking on the world bright, loud is kind of what I aim for. In terms of fabric itself, this is 100% recycled denim, and this is also a bamboo net, so a wool that's made out of bamboo. And it's kind of the sustainability route that I've kind of taken, in a sense of trying to make the most of the resources that I have at home, which is South Africa, and we got
this is here. And what about the costs associated with it? I mean, costs are a major challenge for any entrepreneur in any industry. How have you dealt with those costs and making sure that you are providing quality wear that ends up in brands or clothing stores like Pick n Pay?
I think the only way to approach it as a young or emerging designer is kind of going the ethical way, producing when needed. So when an order comes in made by order, that's when you'll make the actual garment.
So you're not mass producing?
Not mass producing, not going over the wall. I think if you kind of take more consideration with the fabric and choices in terms of design and structure, that's where quality comes in. That's where the longevity of the item comes in as well. And then that's what you give the customer. More than just saying, hi, this is a recycled fabric or this is a sustainable piece. It's more of, I'm giving you the quality or the assistance in terms of how you can take care of it at home as well.
Yeah, do you still sew yourself or do you just design?
I do. I think you always end up sewing yourself, but it's time to kind of just take the lead and get help, you know?
Yeah. Tell us about this Pick n Pay collaboration that has come about. Obviously, you've had the opportunity to work with various other stakeholders in the industry, but why this one? Because sometimes you can say no to a collab.
You can.
Why does this fit with your brand, and what opportunities does this present for Minkus?
I think for me, Pick n Pay clothing has kind of been the brand where you grew up, you got your staples. For me, it was onesies, got my tees, basic dresses. And it's kind of the brand that I saw that took the best initiative in kind of moving in a sustainable route, or rather supporting local, which is what designers are all about, especially young designers. I think them even taking the route of collaborating with young designers is something that really stuck through, and really our values aligned, and something that I really wanted to be a part of.
Yeah, we've got some of the visuals on air of that launch. Tell us about some of the pieces that consumers can look forward to when they go to their local Pick n Pay clothing.
I think you would find a lot of pieces that work on different body types for sure. The fabric choice that we did go with was linen as well as 100% recycled polyester. So they do well in weather, they do well in different body types, and they also do well in types of just taking care of the item after. In terms of the style of the items, I linked it more to my grandmother. You can see the pleats, you can see covered buttons, but it's also something that can be worn in corporate, at work, but also dressed down as well in the comfort of your home with sneakers.
Tell us about opportunities that you've been able to create within Minkus, whether it be a skills transfer, teaching people how to source local products and sew and design. Tell us a little bit about that journey and transferring that skill, but also employment opportunities that you've been able to create.
I think for me, the first thing that I did was start with videos in terms of YouTube, a platform where I can teach people how to sew, how to kind of get around patterns, how to design in a basic concept. And that was more of design school is expensive. That's a reality of South Africa, and resources are expensive as well. So what do we all have? We all have some sort of phone, some sort of access to internet, and that was my first route. In terms of Minkus helping out, it's a lot of internships that we do kind of have. I still work really closely with my Fadisa university, which is now in Sandton and Cape Town, which is great. And it's just like making sure that the road is open for young designers, especially young black women within the industry.
Yeah, what does the road look like for Minkus? What are the plans going forward?
I'm trying to be really specific with where I want to be, what type of design I want to be, just in order to make the correct choices. I think when you know where you want to go, that's when you know, even if opportunities come ahead and people give you like opportunities or collaborations like Pick and Pay, whether it will work for you, work for your brand.
So it's okay to say no.
It's okay to say no, and it's okay to kind of just be specific and consistent and kind of go for a specific goal. So I think for me, it's more just growing and making sure that Minkus ends up being the brand that I've always wanted it to be, rather than the noise that everyone sees.
You don't want it to be a fad.
Yeah.
You want it to be that timeless piece that I'll pull out in 15 years and still rock, and people will be like, where did you get that from,
and
right?
all ages of women. That's just where I want to be.
Yeah. And so you did say you're inspired a little bit by your grandmother in terms of the design and the style. You wanted to speak about these two pieces as well. Do they draw on that inference as well?
They do. So in terms of our bamboo knit dress, a lot of knit comes in from where my grandmother used to knit, how she used to teach me how to crochet as well. Wearing the dress and the culture and kind of inspiration that comes from it is kind of what we wear traditionally. I think even for our red dress here, it's kind of the flow of the bounciness. Flow and bounciness that we as South African women like. People don't really take notice, but we love circular skirts. We love feeling free. We like bounces to our steps, and we have a lot of music in general in our lives infused. So it's something I try to kind of transcend into the clothing.
And it absolutely looks amazing. In closing, what advice would you give to a young person who's taken the plunge as young as you are, completing your studies and creating the opportunities that you have at such a young age? It doesn't necessarily have to be in the fashion and design space, but someone who says, I don't want to have to work for someone else. I want to work for myself and create opportunities for others.
I think just understanding that you are young, there's still time to always go back to corporate or a plan B and working. So why not take the opportunity to bet on yourself right now? And the only thing that kind of takes away from the person who's next to you in your class and you is kind of you being consistent. So if you're consistent all the time, it's kind of that dividing space with talent and also with your passion that will kind of push you through. But the moment you give up or listen to the noise or what's happening in industry saying you're not further enough, or you're looking at someone else for inspiration to the point where you want to live their lives, that's where you miss out in what's actually in front of you and the opportunities that you have.
Oh, and what looks like is in front of you is amazing, and we wish you the very best of luck.
Thank
you very much for joining us this evening, and that is Thando Ntuli, who's a fashion designer and entrepreneur, the founder of Minkus by Thando Ntuli. A wonderful story there, the name coming from a term of endearment that her family and loved ones called her when she was younger.